And now, your host, Couch Tomato!
Hey, I'm Couch Tomato, and I'm joined by
Hulk.
Welcome to Stuff for Movie Buffs. And today we're talking
Christopher Nolan movies.
All right, perfect. Before we get into any of that, I need everybody out there, put your right hand on your heart, left hand in the air, repeat after me. Say I.
I.
Say your name.
Hulk.
Am a movie fan.
Am a movie fan.
As a movie fan.
As a movie fan.
I won't get mad.
I won't get mad.
I can't get mad.
I can't get mad.
And I'll keep my anger to myself.
And I will keep my anger to myself.
All right, perfect. If that's your first time hearing the creed and listening to the show, we start off every show like that because I'm a movie geek, Hulk's a movie geek as well. And sometimes, admittedly, we take movies a little too serious. But by saying that creed, Hulk and I promise to not give you guys the side eye, no matter how absurd your opinions are. And this week, I would imagine some of our opinions are going to be out there. All right, so before we dive into this week's topic, once again, if this is your first time listening to the show, do us a big favor. Head over to Apple Podcast and subscribe to us so that way you're getting new and relevant information as soon as it comes out. Or wherever you go for your podcast, also feel free to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show out a lot. So now jumping right back into it, Christopher Nolan, I think I'm not mistaken when I say this is one of your favorite directors, Hope.
Yeah, he's my favorite director of all time. I like that guy.
All right, and then also it took me a while to actually jump on the bandwagon. Yes, I love the Dark Knight trilogy, but sometimes I feel like whenever it's a comic book movie franchise, you could plug anybody in. It's really the source material that we care about. Mm-hmm. I became a believer after some of his other films outside of the WB wheelhouse. So we'll talk about that today. So interesting topic. You know, Dunkirk comes out today, right?
Yeah.
Well, it comes out this week.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So Dunkirk comes out today. Christopher Nolan is one of those guys where I'll support him blindly at the box office now, because even when I'm not in love with the trailers, I typically fall in love with his films. So with this one, not really in love with the trailers. However, it's Christopher Nolan, so I'm mainly going for the name. But it got us thinking, right? You know, you see those memes on Facebook and Instagram where they'll have like 5 movies or 5 shows, and they say one of them has to go. So we wanted to do that same topic with the Christopher Nolan movies. So far, I think he has this Dunkirk is his 10 major motion picture, correct?
Yeah, just
10th.
about, yeah.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to put these movies on a whiteboard, and 5 of them have to go, meaning they have to be erased from existence, meaning that if we select that movie, Hulk, that would mean that you would never have seen that movie. Like, we're erasing it from your memory bank. Like, no one in society has ever witnessed that runtime.
Everybody going down.
So you understand what I'm saying, right? I just want to make sure you understand the stakes. So we're going to go through his movie resume from 1 to 10. And we're including Dunkirk in this. So if you haven't seen Dunkirk yet, Hulk, I would suggest that you keep that movie alive. Because that would be the... I can't sway you. But we'll basically discuss why we want the movie to stay or why we want the movie to die. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right, perfect. So first up, it's a movie called Following. I'll let you go first.
It was funny because I tried to watch this, I think it was like a year ago, because I had watched all the movies but this one, and then I saw it was on Netflix, and then like I was trying to get into it, and then it seemed kind of boring, and then like I just stopped watching it maybe like 10-15 minutes in. But then like you mentioned that we might be doing Nolan movies, and whenever I'm watching a new movie from a director, I always try to look at some of his old stuff, and then I was like, okay, let me finally watch this movie, and like I loved it, like the way he used just the camera for the whole movie, or the fact that the whole movie cost only $6,000 to make. Like, it was a very low budget, his first movie ever made, and then like I really respected him more as a director, and just looking back on it, I just realized like, wow, like some of the stuff that he was able to go through making that film, you see that it helped him prepare for some of his other films, like like Memento, You know what I'm saying? Like he was able to understand how to use, different narratives and sort of time. Like Nolan always likes to mess with time.
Times and minds. That's
yeah. And
can I say something though?
Mm-hmm.
This one is easy for me. Like you mentioned you never saw this, right?
Yeah, up until this week.
And it's funny you say that because for this one, I'm killing it. It's no question because I've never seen it. So this is easy.
Everybody going down.
So I was gonna agree with you. Like I was gonna say like yeah, like if you decided to kill it, like I don't know what your stance was. I was gonna say yeah, we should. Just given the fact that while I loved it, it's not on par with some of his best.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it sounds like you're keeping this alive. And I'm like, we just starting the list, Hope. And with this one, now that you said that it's at least worth my time, I'll definitely check it out. Is it still on Netflix?
Yeah, it's still there.
All right, I'm looking for some more stuff to add into my queue anyway. So I'll definitely check it out. Keep in mind, I wasn't really on this, drinking this Nolan Kool-Aid until one of the later films that I'm about to mention later on. However, with the earlier works, I'm, interested in going back and looking at his earlier works to see what eventually led him to the path that he's on today, which is one of the best directors in Hollywood. So with this one, just because I have to plead ignorance, I've never seen the film. It's easy, but you have to die soon. So that's gone. Next up, Memento.
Man, this was the one that like really put me on the map. Like where
it put you on the map or him?
Or on the map for Nolan.
I was gonna say I didn't know you co-directed this.
I
Go ahead.
Did. You didn't see my name on the credits?
I always skip the credits anyway, so that's probably me. But go ahead.
But it put Nolan on the map for me, like because it's funny because again, like I was watching Batman Begins, and then I was just like, okay, let me check some of his earlier work, and then boom, I seen this one, and it just blew me away because like he's able to, like, once again, he messes with time, messes with the narrative, like where it's not, it's just straightforward. You have to like
non-linear.
Yeah, you have to think, you have to look for clues, you have to think back. He makes you not only watch the movie straight through, but he also makes you want to watch it again just to look for certain clues that he did. And Memento just blew me away because it sort of sneaks up on you, and then boom, that twist at the end, you're like, whoa, you're really shocked. And the performances were great. Guy Pearce did a great job.
It's one of his more, it wasn't trying to be comedic. I don't know if I look at this as a comedy, because the reason I found out about Memento is through Derek Comedy Troupe, which was the comedy troupe that Donald Glover was in, when he was a YouTube star prior to Community and him being a movie star or, musical talent. They did a spoof on Memento, and I just thought that, hey, if the spoof's really funny, let me see the real thing. And when I watched it, I came in thinking that it was a comedy. So to me, this movie is hilarious, and I do think that it's one of the better uses of nonlinear storytelling, because they put his what type of disorder did he have? Well, he can't really have, he doesn't have long-term memory, right?
Yeah, he can't form new memories.
Yeah, so I think that lends itself well to nonlinear storytelling, because sometimes people like Zack Snyder, I think, just overuse that process when it shouldn't be. But this is when I was like, okay, that's how he got the Batman Begins job. So they just weren't hiring just anybody, because for the longest, I thought that's what Hollywood did. So with this one, I think this movie's different. I think that also sparked a resurgence in the nonlinear storytelling format that has become so popular and a staple of Chris Nolan's films today. So believe it or not, I'm keeping this one alive.
You live to fight another day.
Oh, man. Like,
I told you were going to be surprised. Before the show, Hulk and I talked, and he says he thinks we're going to be on the same page. But if I know Hulk, I think you're going to try your hardest to keep the Dark Knight trilogy alive.
Exactly.
And I'm really trying to keep defining moments of Chris Nolan's career. Because I think without Memento, you don't have Batman Begins. So you have to be fair in that aspect. And I think if this movie doesn't exist and you erase it from your memory, I don't think you get an Interstellar. I don't think you get an Inception. I don't think you get a Dunkirk. So this is like one of his earlier films. And when you look at some other directors and you look at their earlier pieces, they aren't masterpieces. I would consider this like a staple of cult culture, I guess, so to speak. It's a I don't know, like geeks love it, but even if you're not really into movies like that, I think just the average moviegoer could watch this film and fall in love with this. So even though it's a smaller picture,
it's one of those movies that got bigger over time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things that, like, you know, I guess for our generation, like, it just kept picking up over the decades. It's like one of those movies like where if somebody hasn't seen it, you always say, yeah, go watch Memento. Like, you'll really like it.
Yeah. So I mean, I want us to be on the same page. Is there something you could sacrifice on your list? Because it sounds like you weren't keeping this one alive.
Nah, we'll keep this one alive. Like,
all right, cool. And then maybe you could sway me.
Without it, we don't have the others.
You could probably sway me with one of yours as well. Because all right, so next up, Batman Begins. Your favorite trilogy? Am I right or wrong?
Yes. No. Second favorite. Godfather's my favorite.
Okay, Godfather. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So Batman Begins. You like this movie more than I do. I actually didn't appreciate this movie until like maybe 2 years ago. I was like, oh, that's what people like. I just couldn't get past the voice. I just also felt that the movie was long for no reason. And some of the aesthetics, but you got to understand, it's like an origin story. So the fact that his helmet looks like that, you know, it just would always turn me off when I watched it. But now it's actually one of those first films where you start to not the first film to do it, but this isn't the first film to establish a dark universe for a superhero. But I just thought that this showed Hollywood that the audience is more interested in the guy behind the mask, not necessarily only the vigilante, you know, and his escapades at night and stuff like that. So once again, your second favorite trilogy of all time. Let me know why this movie deserves a chance to stay alive.
Okay. It's funny because knowing where you come from with Batman Begins, like, I was just like, okay, I was prepared to just scrap it. Like, I like thinking back on it, like, I think it set the blueprint for origin stories for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you hear it all the time. There's a lot of franchises, you know, they mention, you know, Batman Begins as their influence, like with James Bond, you know, the Daniel Craig series. They mentioned that. Even with Iron Man 3, when they were, like, I remember them doing promos, it was just like, oh, it's going to be a la Batman Begins. You know, Tony Stark is going back to the cave. You see it a lot. Like, it set the blueprint for origin stories. A Man of Steel as well. The way Zack Snyder uses his story into, like,
Chris Nolan produced Man of Steel. Yeah. I like that movie, but I don't know if that's the argument that you want to bring up in this discussion, because I think the world would agree that they could probably do without a Man of Steel film.
No. I'm just mentioning just some of its influences over time. But like you said, like, to me, this is the weakest out of the Batman movies. So I was going to be willing to scrap it for this segment, because there's certain because there's certain movies that I want to protect, and because remember, we have to get rid of 5, so I was willing to scrap, you know, Batman Begins, like, just so that I could protect some of the other ones, even though I feel like this is like the blueprint for origin stories. And, you know, this saved Batman. Like, Batman was dead for WB as far as financially, and it didn't even make that much money. It only made like $370 million, and that's real low for a comic book movie and for a Batman movie. But critics save it.
All right, this is the thing. I'll allow you to kill this film, because I do think we can't save the entire franchise. I think we have to focus on the people that will add value to society. So if someone's got to go, this is probably one of those movies.
Everybody gonna die.
However, if you're planning on saving The Dark Knight Rises, some of those elements aren't going to make sense, because you would have never had experience. Like, you would have never had experience with Batman Begins. Okay. So when, you know, Ra's al Ghul is making a cameo, you're not going to love that movie as much, because you're like, who is this guy? Why is Liam Neeson in this movie? Is it a Star Wars crossover? I don't know, because I've never seen Batman Begins. It's never existed. Okay. So, but we're jumping ahead.
Okay.
Next.
So by that logic.
All right. Wait. No. It's too late, because I want this movie gone.
All right. Fine. Okay.
All right, now I'm just saying, I'm going to try to make it hard for you. I personally think the only way this works, and I'm kind of giving you a hint at my list a little bit, I think you're only able to save one movie out of the trilogy.
Exactly.
But I really feel you're going to try to save two, but I think you could only save one, but we're jumping ahead. We could do a callback if you change your mind later on, but I didn't have this I didn't try to save Batman Begins. I just let it slip off the edge and just turned a blind eye. So next up is The Prestige.
Insomnia?
Oh wow. Oh, I skipped I skipped
same
Insomnia,
here.
so I guess that tells you what I think.
Yeah. This is my least favorite.
Okay, so no need to further discuss. All right, you know what? It's my least favorite so much that I've never seen it. And you know the reason I've never seen it?
Oh, watch it. It's decent. It's a decent watch.
I'll watch it, but you know the reason I've never seen it, right? Because there's a movie called Paranoia that had Shia LaBeouf. I don't know if it's because these movies were released
I did the same
in
thing.
similar time frames, but for years when people would bring up Insomnia, I'm like, that Shia LaBeouf movie? I'm like, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. So I always had these movies confused, and then I finally found out, oh, they're different movies. So now now that I feel like I need to understand his arsenal a little bit more, I'll go back and watch it. So that's my homework. I'll watch The Following and I'll watch Insomnia because number one, kids out there, it's wrong to kill people. It's even more wrong to kill movies. And if you're going to kill a movie, not saying that you should at least have experience with that movie first. You shouldn't just pull the trigger. That movie should have pissed you off. And these movies, I want to apologize because these movies have done nothing to piss me off because I haven't seen Following, I haven't seen Insomnia. So try to be better than me. Don't try to be like me. So I do apologize for killing these movies without any type of experience. So The Prestige, which I have seen.
Yes, sir.
And I'll start this one off first. Loved it. Solid Netflix watch if you guys are Netflix subscribers out there. So I don't know if this has the same impact years after the fact though, because there's some twists. There's like two twists in this movie. And the twist in the movie is that Christian Bale's character is using a twin. But it's obvious because the Dark Knight trilogy is so popular now that you understand that's Christian Bale behind that disguise, right?
Yeah.
And then the secondary twist is that Hugh Jackman is cloning himself and killing the clones. Like I saw that coming from a mile, but even knowing those twists, I think it's almost a needless subplot because this movie, like the reason I like it so much is because you cheer for the good guy and the bad guy at different times. It just really depends. So I thought that element was cool. Also, I like magic and the fact that when Now You See Me came out, I just wanted that film to focus on real magic and real illusions, but they CGI'd it so much and I was like, why did you make a magic film and not include any real magic tricks?
Yeah.
This film has some sci-fi elements, but they also do real magic tricks and they explain how real magic tricks are done. So just for that part alone, I love the movie. However, if I'm trying to save the 5 most influential Christopher Nolan films that makes Christopher Nolan who Christopher Nolan is, I'll have to pass on this one.
Oh, wow. I was trying to save this one.
I mean, you made me budge. You made me budge on one of these. No, I made you budge on one of these films. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to save this one, I don't mind, giving you a shot.
Yeah, I really want to save this one.
But
I feel like it's one of those staple movies where it's like he really started to separate himself from like other directors. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, he has Insomnia, he has Batman Begins, but when you put this along with Memento, it's just like, okay, this guy's really starting to become one of the greats. So it's just like, I really love this movie. Like, I think it's because I see a lot of arguments where they say this is his best movie, and like, and I see it.
I haven't seen that yet because I
understand.
I think
why
the next two movies on
way.
our list is the one that I hear are his best movies, but
no,
you already tricked me into picking this movie, so it survived.
You live to fight another day.
I'm saying if you make me change my mind, it's up to you.
We're keeping this one alive. I don't want Prestige to die.
All right, and I know we're gonna have to go back because now I'm doing the math, Hope, and some of these movies gonna have to die, and they don't need to. The Dark Knight, It's next up, Dark Knight.
Nah, we're not killing this one. I can't.
I don't think anybody would in their right. Even if I didn't like this movie, I wouldn't kill it. Just because number one, I think this is one of the. It's his best film, I believe, even though it may not be my favorite. And I'm not killing this film mainly because it's already unfair that Heath Ledger is no longer with us, and it would be an insult to injury to murder this film. So best depiction of a villain in any comic book movie.
Yep.
Not best, but one of the better villains in cinematic history.
Yep.
And I always say if you take the reason why this isn't my favorite Nolan film is I always feel if you take Joker out, it's just a really good comic book movie, but Joker just added an extra element, just the whole lore around the movie with the idea of, wow, he was so involved and entrenched in his character that, he died. And that just, it's commitment, but it's also sad as well. But I just always think that this movie is something that sequels, because, they always used to say Star Wars Empire Strikes Back is what all sequels aspire to be. Mm-hmm. I think after this film came out, it was a changing of the guard. And I really think everybody's trying to have this is going to be our Dark Knight Rises. Because I think Age of Ultron was trying to do that clearly. Yeah. And it was like, this is going to be our Dark Knight. And it hasn't happened yet. So kudos to this movie. It's staying alive. We didn't even think about, stabbing this movie in the back. So next up, Inception.
I got to keep this one alive. This is like my third favorite movie. Well, like outside of the, Batman and the Batman franchise and
third favorite movie from him.
Yeah, like it's amazing. Like I just love it. To me, again, he not so much disjointed narrative, but he uses time real well and
time and mind.
Yeah, and mind. Like he really messes with your mind. He forces you to think. He forces you to want to rewatch the movie. And it's one of those movies where I think I watched it like 3 times that summer. Like I just kept going back. And
I didn't think Nolan was. This is one of the movies where I was like, well, everybody keep, because I was always Quentin Tarantino. I was always Edgar Wright, and I just felt like Nolan was getting lifted by Hollywood. Which never was the case, because now that I look back, Hollywood wasn't really lifting them up. It was more pop culture. Yeah. Like, members of the geekdom community were trying to, raise them up, where Hollywood was pushing back. This is the film I was like, oh, that's why these guys are on his jock. And I was like, let me see, because I don't think he came up with this concept on his own. And then when you find out it's him and his brother, and it's a original property, I was like, whoa, like because I always used to feel even before 24 Reasons format came up, I just felt like there's only a limited amount of concepts that you could put into a movie, but it's your job as a director or a writer to like really add a new point of view from it. Yeah. But this was a new element that I've never seen. And I was like, I've never seen that in any movie. Oh my God, this is crazy. How did he come up with that idea? And I'm like, well, and I feel like there's one good idea every decade, right? And I felt like this was going to be it. But as we go further into his list, he continues to do that over and over again. So I don't know where he gets his influence from, but no. And secondly, Leo is my second favorite actor next to Denzel Washington. And I think if you take Inception out, there's not a lot in his resume to help me justify that argument. Because every time I used to bring up Leo before Inception, people would be like, talking about Jack from Titanic? At least people in the hood, they're like, talking about Jack from Titanic? He's not real. And this is before Wolf of Wall Street. So it's like, I was always fighting for movies to prove like, no, Leo's a strong actor. And they would always bring up some of his, horrible films. And this started helping his career out too, to where everything that he was touch, it was a Midas touch to where it was turning gold. But
yeah, to me, this was the one that Leo already had, Oscar pedigree, but this one was the one that was just like really starting to add it to it where like, okay, Oscars, like it's starting to get ridiculous, like the fact that this guy doesn't have one. So
yeah. And then also just the ideas, the aspects of time manipulation were cool, like you mentioned. The ideas on how the human brain works were awesome, I felt. Also, the film changed the way summer blockbuster trailers are made because that whomp sound is on every trailer now. Yeah, so tremendous influence. I think this one has to stay as well. So now we're in a dogfight now because we only have one more spot. And I don't feel like we're making it to the end of this list. me and you're going to have an argument over the next two films, I believe. So we just talked about Inception, Dark Knight Rises, which I'm pretty sure is the other movie you were going to try to save.
I
Why?
always defend this movie. Like, this is my...
I like it too.
Yeah,
go ahead.
To me, it's my favorite out of all the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Like, I just felt like it always had a lot of heart. Like, I felt like he really understood who Bruce Wayne was. Like, not only just with Batman Begins, because even like you said with The Dark Knight, that's really more Joker's story in a way. Don't get me wrong, Bruce Wayne and Batman is still very relevant, but at the same time, it's more Joker's movie. This one was where I really felt like you understood who Bruce Wayne was. Like, if I could point to a movie, like, it'll be it. Like, this will be it. Like, without the gadgets, without anything, just him alone in the cave, fighting for survival, trying to get out of the pit. It's about, resurrecting yourself. It's about overcoming obstacles, all that stuff. And I just felt like from the moment, you see Tom Hardy on the screen, he was a fantastic villain. Even like, I remember
Clean that up. Fantastic villain. I think Bane starts off as a great rival to Heath Ledger's Joker. The first half of the movie cements him as one of the best villains in comic book movie history, but the second half, oh no, you got it.
Yeah, I won't argue with that. Like, I felt like I wanted one last real fight. You know what I'm saying? Because I think we owed it to him. See the way he demolished, Batman in the.
I thought you were gonna say the way he got demolished by the motorcycle, but moving along.
But yeah,
I think I like this movie more than most, but there's some parts in it that begs you to kill this movie. So I personally feel like Dark Knight Rises, you don't want to live. Like, you don't even want to live to see another day, because this movie is actually one of those films you point to when you talk about plot holes. It had a lot of plot holes, and I just remember everybody poking fun at some of the issues with the film, and I think that's more. This seems like it's the most rushed Christopher Nolan film, in my opinion. Still like it. I love the scene when Batman gets stabbed in the back by Catwoman and literally gets stabbed in the back by Bane's knee. I personally enjoy watching heroes get beat up, and this is one of the best scenes that displays that. However, I could point to issues just like I could point to the pros. This movie's long for no reason. It has the most plot points than any other film. And I'm comfortable just, putting a gun to this movie's head. As long as we keep The Dark Knight alive, just because I feel like that movie is almost standalone. If you didn't see, a film to preface it, and if you didn't see a film to follow it, Dark Knight could stand on its own, and you understand that world. It probably wouldn't have been as a strong film because you didn't understand where Bruce came from. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, wow, this, if you wanted to, you could make this, a new film. And some of that is because they had to switch. What's the Katie Holmes character?
Rachel Dawes.
So they tried not to call back to the first film so much because some of the characters were different. So The Dark Knight Rises, the shadows are not your ally, Bruce. So with that being said, I think this movie has to die. Now, only because the next film, because we're talking about Interstellar. So if we could talk about these both at one time, Interstellar is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, same here.
And I kind of we're gonna go back to our list. So if you want to keep Dark Knight Rises, something on our list has to come off because Interstellar is one of my favorite films, and I just feel like it'll be unfair for me not to put up a fight to at least get it on the catalog. Because right now we have Memento, Prestige, The Dark Knight, and Inception. We have room for one more, and we haven't seen Dunkirk yet. So now you're about to make a list where you're comfortable not seeing any more of his films, at least the films that come out in 2017. So before we make a decision on The Dark Knight Rises, let me tell you why we should probably kick something off of our list to allow Interstellar to see, another day. Is that cool?
All
right. So this movie has to stay whole. One of the few movies that doesn't have an agenda. And what I mean by that, they hint at environmental issues, but instead of preaching about it, they set up the crop issue as a backstory and it becomes almost an afterthought.
Yep.
Also, the audience is we're not entirely sure how the black hole came about, right? Because if you remember when they were talking with the astronauts, the team supervising the astronauts at the beginning, they hinted that, okay, the black hole could have been put there by a deity. It could have been put there by
deity
a deity
or aliens. Like, they don't know.
Yeah, or aliens, or just it was a natural occurrence. So you never know. Right. And then the astronauts mentioned the possibility, like you just explained, but they never answered the question. So if you're a religious person, a scientific person, or etc., you can enjoy this film with little to no offense taken.
Yep.
Right. Because it's like they're not catering to one side of the audience. And I thought that was just brilliant. And as a God-fearing man myself, I think this is the best film I've ever seen that exhibits Christian themes. I always look at this as a Christian movie.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I'm just always.
Yeah.
So I think they're on the money with the bookshelf. A lot of people hated the bookshelf. And I think that creates a way to explain how God operates outside of time as a dimension. And I just thought that was creative. I've never seen it time used with that method in film before. I also think the fact that love was used as an application, and the only way one person could communicate with another person through time is if love is the common software between the two. Thought that was brilliant. Like, if you're a tech guy, you understand that sometimes Android apps don't work on iOS. So the way, like, people hated the way they used love in the movie, I always looked at it as, no, the only person that could reach his daughter through the bookshelf was him, because their common software is love. So it's saying in order to, communicate through a dimension, there has to be some type of common application between both parties.
Relationship. Anybody else, it would have been like some freakish thing. Books keep falling on my shelf.
Calling the cops, or I'm moving. And I just thought that was like, that's so corny, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. And
even like with when you paraphrase like Anne Hathaway, when she said that, love, I'm paraphrasing, when she was like time through space, whatever, love is the only thing. Like, I thought, I was like, oh man, that line is so corny, but I still loved it. Like a lot. If you don't accept the bookshelf, you're not gonna accept that line. And I was like, I said, oh my God, like, my wife doesn't like sci-fi movies, but soon as I was done with this movie, and it's a long movie. Oh yeah.
By the way, 24 Reasons, Interstellar is the same as Science, came out this week.
It did.
It's so long, I had to compare it to two different films. So those are some of the aspects I got from the film, and but everyone who saw it got something different, which I think is awesome. Whenever you could get multiple point of views from everyone who sees the movie, and it sparks a debate, I always think that's great. And by the way, it was the same case with Inception as well. So it's something about movies with the letter I with Christopher Nolan where he gets it right. This is my favorite film from Nolan, and it's not going anywhere. So when we look at the list, right now we're at a crossroads with Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar. We only have one more space. I'll allow you to put Dark Knight Rises if we take something off. Now, when you look at Memento and Prestige, let's be honest. If you were to poll the audience out there, which one would they think is the more creative film that really started to build his, like, where he started attracting the eyes of Hollywood? Is it Memento or is it Prestige?
Ooh. I would say Memento is the one that really, like, okay, we got to keep an eye on this guy. Like,
but I put Memento, you put Prestige is on the list, and that's why I think for his smaller budget films, I only think you need one. That's the reason I didn't go after all of them. And I'm like, well, if it's between all of them, Memento has to stay. I think there's a lot of movies that does what Prestige does well, so society could live without a Prestige. It hurts me to say that, but if you're trying to put Dark Knight Rises, honestly, I think Dark Knight Rises is more influential than Prestige. So it's like, I agree with you there, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, you're going to have to throw away Prestige or Dark Knight Rises.
All right.
Balls in your court. I'm just telling you, like, based off of what we just talked about with Interstellar. And it's also one of those films where it showed some chinks in his armor. The reason I love that film so much is because he didn't listen to Hollywood. The bookshelf shouldn't have been in that movie. I don't think Hollywood wanted
the
bookshelf.
Because that was like the main criticism was the third act.
Yep. But I think it's one of those films that you don't appreciate today, but it's going to be shown in film schools to where it's like, it's the perfect way to stick a middle finger up to Hollywood and say, nope, I'm keeping it. I understood it, but I know a lot of people had issues with it. That's why I think Interstellar is one of those films. Even now, you see it. I mean, there's subreddits devoted to Interstellar. I mean, there's communities devoted to it. I don't know if I could say the same thing about Prestige. I can say the same thing about Dark Knight Rises, just because when you look at comic book movies, a lot of stuff that they did, Marvel copies. And this is also the last time that Warner Brothers was on top. Like, because during that time, that's when it was a changing of the guard almost.
Yeah.
But after that movie, that's when Marvel took the rings. So if you're taking away Dark Knight Rises, that would mean that Marvel kind of took the crown away earlier. And I just think you're rewriting history, and I think that's unfair.
All right.
I'm really selling it right
Thank
now.
you.
But
You did a lot better job than I would.
I know. I got a sales background, so it's whatever.
All right, so we'll take out Prestige.
Everybody going down.
I'll let you keep. If you do that, I'll let you keep Dark Knight Rises. You're gonna let me work with Interstellar.
Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, Dunkirk comes out this week, and we're not gonna be able to watch it.
I was able to watch it last.
No. You're erasing it from your memory bank. It never happened because you didn't put it on the list. And the fact that you saw it and you're not including it on your list.
Okay. I was gonna make my argument. It's like, it's one of those movies where, like, to me, it was like a great IMAX. It was probably my best IMAX experience. Just like the sound and just the technical uses. Like, to me, this is like one of his best like technical work. Shots,
yeah,
you know,
it
everything.
looks like from the trailers he's going for the Oscar, at least more consideration.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to get that type of attention, but I think he's going to start making more serious films. Only to, you know, I think he's mimicking the career of
Spielberg. You want to say?
Yeah, I see that a lot. It's like, because, you know, when you look at Spielberg, some people look at him as a blockbuster director, but when you go look at his IMDb, no, Spielberg would dip in and out of the Oscar world, the drama world. And I think that Chris Nolan's doing the same thing. So I think he's capitalizing on his mass following. And he feels like if I release this movie in the summer, I could at least, my audience will support it and that'll capture the attention. And that should be a wave to carry me through Oscar season. I don't know if this film is going to win that because I haven't heard anything too special. And I'm just finding out that you saw it.
Yeah.
In normal circumstances, you can't wait to give me feedback. So what is this? Is this more new territory for him to where it's more serious, or is there some type of...
No, it's like you said. It's more serious. It's more, like you said, more of like an Oscar pedigree. It's more like I want this to get nominated for like maybe score, sound. You know, obviously I think it should get consideration for Best Picture as well. But
nah, they still mad at him about that bookshelf, man. Hollywood's never finna forgive him.
It's gonna be tough.
They're never going to forgive him.
But like, it's not his best movie because I still think Interstellar, Inception, you know what I'm saying? Like I still think they're better movies, but I think it's like right in that realm, like we're in that middle. You know, maybe it's third or fourth best movie. Like I'll let time decide as far as that, but. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best IMAX experience I ever had because like he does a great job with the technical work of the film. I'm
not the biggest fan of war film genres.
That's another thing too. It's like it's not a movie I could just keep. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a Inception where I could just watch it again. It's like okay, I don't really like you know what I'm saying, people dying and all that stuff left and right.
Yeah, and I'm very squeamish when it comes to blood in movies, and that's why I typically stay away from horror films. I just can't stomach some of those scenes. And till this day, I've never seen Saving Private Ryan because I saw a clip. I saw a clip. It had to be on some type of daytime talk show when they were promoting the movie. I'm thinking it was Oprah, but maybe not. Where it showed a clip, and I was like, I'm not watching that. And I ended up going back to watch the clip online, and I was like, I'm not watching that. That's disgusting.
I will say this, Nolan. It's not really bloody. Like he doesn't really use. I can tell he doesn't like using blood. Like, cause a lot of shots, it's like. Okay, they're supposed to be real gruesome, but it's not really. Like, you don't even see any blood. I don't even think... Yeah.
I could live with that then. I could do that. I'll give it a shot, but even though I can't, because technically this movie doesn't exist. Unfortunately, we left it out. But I don't feel bad hearing your feedback to where still a good movie, not probably his best, to where I think we protected the films that mattered. So, hey guys, I want to hear from you. Our list is Memento, The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and Interstellar. But come up with the top 5 list listed in the comment section or wherever you can reach us, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, and let us know the movies that gotta die and the movies that gotta live. So all in all, guys, it's about that time. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Before you leave, if you like what you heard, make sure to share it with a friend on Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud or wherever you go for your podcast, guys. Don't let this be the last time we hear from you or you hear from us. Support the show by giving us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, guys. It would really mean a lot. Also, join us next week. Check the show notes out on where you can find us weekly. It's Couch Tomato Films on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and Couch Tomato Film on Twitter. Other than that, peace.